Culture swap. Swap my culture.
Swap my culture.
So, hands up, it was my suggestion last week, wasn't it?
Yep.
I suggested The Last American Virgin. Now, listeners, do bear in mind, we're still doing just one thing each for us both to discuss.
Yeah, as hard as that is to believe, listening to Liam's culture swaps, where he often does 3 films, suggests we do 2 if we've got time.
Yeah, well, you know, so this week the main one was The Last American Virgin for us both to watch.
Yeah.
And then, if we had time, a little bonus treat, Porkys. And I've got good news for you, listeners. We both had time.
We did.
So, there'll be a little bonus treat after we've discussed The Last American Virgin. Now, I've seen it before. I'm a huge fan of the movie. But Jack, you haven't seen it, so I'm curious. What did you think?
I didn't think it was a very good film.
Well, I'm going to stop you right there. Any listeners that are currently listening, we are going to go into spoilers. So,
did you do this deliberately so you could cut me off? It was so well orchestrated, I did not see it coming.
If you don't want this movie spoiled for you, maybe skip to the end.
Oh, you're a dick.
So, The Last American Virgin, what was the plot, Jack?
The plot, if you can call it a plot.
Yeah, well, we can.
It's one high school student, but I guess it sort of focuses on his 2 friends as well, a fair amount. But he's like, I don't know. So I'm going to try and explain the plot. This does lead into the plot, but like other films that are sort of this style, they're like, it's the last years of high school, I've got to get laid sort of thing. They sort of try and do it's the last years of high school, I've got to get laid. But The Last American Virgin doesn't like. There's no huge point about it where it's like he's desperate to get a girl. It's just like, I think you get a couple of scenes where there's like the few scenes where he's trying to get laid. Yeah. And then, but they don't sort of, I don't know, they don't seem to be focusing on it. I know they are, and they're trying to.
Here's the thing, he actually does get laid, in a very kind of almost underwhelming
Yeah, but not for like
manner.
Half the film.
No, so...
And before that, you get maybe like one scene where he's trying to get laid, and even then it's not really him, it's his mates who are sort of orchestrating the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about The Last American Virgin. It doesn't have that, like, time pressure, like certain movies. We have to lose our virginity by prom, or we have to do it on spring break or whatever. There's time.
I'm not a huge fan of those films anyway, particularly. They're not my genre of choice, necessarily. But, like, that's not a bad thing, adding that time pressure, because it gives it that urgency. So for him, you're just getting, I have to get laid.
Yeah, what you're
and
getting...
then there's no pressure behind it. It's like...
No, what you're getting with The Last American Virgin is just a kind of snapshot into your average American teenager's life.
I don't think you are. Don't say that, because that's not true.
Yeah, that's what you're getting with this movie.
No, you aren't. Don't say that, because you don't know that, and I also don't think that's true. I honestly don't believe that this film is really portraying what it's like to be an American teenager.
Well, do you know why you might be feeling that?
Why?
Because this movie is actually a remake of a series of Israeli movies called the Lemon Popsicle movies.
Okay.
And what they basically did is, for some reason, the Lemon Popsicle movies was quite successful around the world, but it didn't really translate to America. So they basically picked almost the best bits from each of the movies, and now we have The Last American Virgin as a result of that.
So the point you were making about this being a snapshot into an American teenager's life was wrong?
Well, you could also
say... Because it's based on a series of Israeli stories?
Yeah, so how different is America to Israel? That's the big question.
I mean, I don't know, probably quite different.
Well, as a teenager, this is the thing about these movies. As a teenager just wanting to get laid, that's a universal theme. We can all relate to that.
It's never... I don't know. So my issue with these films is that it's too beleaguered a point. It's like so heavily... Like, I get, and I was a teenage boy, I remember. But it's not like... It wasn't every waking minute of my day was me being like, man, I'm going to get a prostitute because I have to have sex soon. Like, it's so over the top. And this film... It shouldn't have been over the top because the end of the film is so polar opposite to what these films usually do.
Yeah, that's... Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. So,
yeah, we are, but it just annoys me.
The Last American Virgin, basically, we get this little glimpse into these 3 friends, and what is, I guess, the big event, if you will, the inciting incident, is there's a new girl in school, girl called Karen, and our main character, guy called Gary, he very quickly develops a crush on Karen. Now, if this was your typical average movie, you would have an hour of them sort of dancing around each other. Maybe she'd be interested in someone else and he'd be winning her affections, and then by the closing credits they'd be embracing and kissing each other and everything would be happy, wouldn't it? If this was your average movie.
Yeah, but that does happen, Liam, for most of the film.
Not quite.
No, it does. You said it would be the whole, like, you literally, one of your plot points was she'd fall for someone else, which is what the film is.
Yeah, that does happen. But
and then he tries to win her affection.
Yeah, that also happens, but in a very bizarre way.
No, that bit of the film isn't bizarre.
I don't know.
Why? Wait, okay, so what do you think's bizarre about the way they do it in The Last American Virgin?
I think it's bizarre to try and win someone's affection by agreeing to pay for her abortion, which was a result of
I said most of the film
was...
Yeah, so I said most of the film, up till the ending, is the traditional, she's fallen for someone else, he's trying to win her affection.
Yeah, but then, okay...
You said we weren't talking about the ending, because it was too... You said... that
I wouldn't say, in a traditional film, you would have the main character, who is the virgin, sleeping with a prostitute and getting crabs. Yeah,
but see, I don't think that was the big, like... And admittedly, I guess in those times... I mean, it was probably a big deal, and, like, STDs in those times were spreading more, I guess.
Well, the 80s, you had the whole AIDS boom.
Yeah, so I guess that was more of a point then. But, like, even in this film, they don't try and make that a huge point. It's not like...
No, it's played for
I thought, I was like, oh, okay, they're going to get something worse than crabs, and it's going to be a big, like, oh, so maybe that's not what they should do. And it's not. It's literally, like, one scene where they're like, my dick itches, does your dick itch? And then he's like, yeah, mine does. What about David's? And then David's like, yeah, my balls are itching. And then they're all like, oh, we got crabs. And they just go to a store.
I'm sorry, but that scene, when that was happening, what the important thing you missed out is they're actually taking a test in a class environment where they're supposed to be silent. And that scene cracked me up.
Really?
Yeah. The thing
is... Honestly, I think I laughed maybe once in this film. Right, and even then, I don't think it was a laugh. It was like a, huh.
You see, I have a lot of affection for these coming-of-age movies, especially the more raunchy ones, because I find them very relatable. I feel like...
Because you were fucking prostitutes.
Well, I feel like, with movies like this, we've all been there, okay? So we've all...
No, you haven't!
No, we've all made a pact to lose our virginity by prom, and we've all driven across the country because we accidentally mailed a sex tape to our girlfriend that we were in a long-distance relationship with.
I didn't.
And we have... all promised to bring alcohol to a party while we were underage, and we had to figure out how to do that, and we had to get fake licenses.
I didn't do that.
And we've all had a porn star move in next door when we fell in love with her.
These
are themes that I think all of us can relate to on some level.
See, this is the thing, right? So all those films you were listing there, like, they're good comedy films. Like, this storyline, the Let's Lose Our Virginity storyline,
yes,
is a good comedy storyline.
It is, yes.
This film tried to be a comedy for most of it.
Yeah, and it did make me laugh.
I honestly didn't see that. There was this wasn't a funny film to me.
How about the scene quite early on where they get three women, they take them back to the main character, Gary. His house is empty, the parents are out for the night, and they're all trying to get it on with these women, and poor Gary, the virgin, he is lumbered with, let's say... Oh, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to say...
See, this is one of my issues with the film, is that whole scene, right? And again, it's a product of the times and stuff.
Yeah.
But that scene wouldn't fly as well in a film nowadays.
No, so let's say...
Because it's wrong. It's not nice what they're doing.
To put it politely, his two friends both get two fairly attractive women, and Gary gets the less attractive of the options. Like, he gets the Bulbasaur, while the others get Squirtle and Charmander.
Well, that's a ridiculous thing, because Bulbasaur was the best starter from Gen 1.
Ridiculous. Bulbasaur was... fucking awful. Anyway,
turned into a giant leaf dinosaur
versus a giant fire dinosaur.
Yeah, I'll admit Charizard is the coolest starter.
A giant
try and sell me exactly. Try and sell Blastoise.
Turtle.
Everyone thinks Blastoise is cool until they have to explain what he is. A giant turtle that has water pistols on his shoulders.
Hydro
That's
Pump.
really shit.
Hydro Pump is a bitching move.
It fires water.
Yeah, but
that's like the
powerful.
least threatening thing. As a kid, I was like, so he's a hose. This is not great.
What was Venusaur's big, great
move? He fired sunlight. Focused, burning sunlight.
He was rubbish. Anyway, I just love that scene. And then
Isn't- I-
obviously the
like-
parents come home. Now, okay, that is something we can relate to, right? Where we've had a girl back at ours, we're trying to get frisky, and then suddenly your parents walk in.
No.
That's awkward and embarrassing.
I mean, I was usually careful with, like... See, I've never understood the whole, like, my parents are out for a night, let's have a party. I had friends that did it, and I
Yeah.
went to those parties, but I did it once in my life,
Yeah.
and I did it because I hadn't done it before, and my parents were away for a week, I think. So
Yeah.
I had one night where I had a party. And they came back, walked in, and there were bags of rubbish, and they went, "You had a party, didn't you?" And I went, "Yes." And they went, "Why didn't you just ask us? We would have said yes." And I was like, "Yeah, I know."
Did you get in trouble?
Yeah, I got in trouble with my mum, and my dad was like, "You should have just said," and I would have been fine with it. And I was like, "Yeah, I know." But for me, it was like, I haven't done it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think doing it illicitly is a bit more exciting.
I just did it because, like, it felt like that's the thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you get with these movies. And here's the other thing, right? For those of us who perhaps, when they should have been doing these things, maybe instead they were, I don't know, off the top of my head, in their bedroom playing World of Warcraft.
This is Liam, by the way, folks.
Well, we're not naming names. I'm just saying some people...
I don't want
maybe...
people to think I'm the stay-at-home World of Warcraft guy.
No, but I mean, someone might have been.
Yeah, someone on this podcast might have been.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Instead of the whole going out and partying and stuff.
Yeah.
What these movies give you is an opportunity to live vicariously.
Alright, okay, I get that point. But these films are based in the 1980s,
Yeah.
when you were a baby.
I wasn't
Like-
even born when these films came out.
No, that's true, not when these films came out. No, that's
No,
fair. Sometimes I forget that you're not, 80.
exactly.
But, so, I don't know, living
equally-
vicariously through these films aren't that exciting. Like, I had crazier parties than are in these films. And I didn't go to crazy parties.
Yeah, but that's not kind of... The point isn't how crazy is this party. What I like about, especially the 80s setting, is I kind of just love seeing the snapshots of that time. Because, like, while these are obviously exaggerated to an extent...
I'd say quite an extent.
well, Porky's is actually based on the director's life.
Right, well, we'll talk about Porkys later.
They are exaggerated to an extent. You know that, in the 80s, these kids were having parties and were trying to get laid and were going to prostitutes and were getting crabs. And, like, the one scene...
No, see, you say that, go to prostitutes and get crabs. I don't think that many people are going to prostitutes.
I mean, it occurs in both the movies.
Yeah,
That can't be a
it happens in
coincidence.
quite a few modern films as well, prostitutes, Liam, but I don't think it's a commonplace thing. I don't
Maybe
think
that's
all the
just
high
you, though.
schoolers... No, it's not, Liam. I think it's most people. I think I think your problem is that you tend to believe that the film universes are based more closely on fact than they really are.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you find it hard to distinguish reality and fiction.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the documentary we were discussing. One of the scenes that really stood out, and I was like, right, this wouldn't happen. I went to an all-boys school, so I'm going to know. It's the scene where they're in the locker room, and they all just suddenly decide to start measuring each other's dicks.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was as soon as that scene's like, because so one of the the nerdy kid,
Yeah.
he is peeping on the girls' locker room through a little hole,
Yeah.
and then all the other lads catch him at it,
Yeah.
and they're all like, "Oh, you cheeky, what are you doing?" And then he's like, "You guys are just jealous that I'm packing heat."
Yeah.
And then of course they do the logical thing, which is they all bet each other who has the bigger penis.
Yeah.
And then the main character and his tubby friend sit
Measure.
down with a ruler and literally measure all of their friends' penises.
Relatable.
And I was like, if anyone had done that in my school, they'd have had the shit kicked out of them. Like, not by me, just by the dickhead kids.
Yeah.
But the ones that are leading the way seem to be the dickhead kids in that film.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing about that scene as well, which is interesting, is the nerd is the one with the biggest dick, and that's the bit that I most related to.
Oh, right, did you?
Yeah, obviously.
It's because when you were at school and theoretically at the time when people were measuring penises, you were just measuring your ego, and they were like, "Yep, Liam's got the biggest one."
Yeah, I mean, it matches his dick, is what they said.
In your head.
One thing I do want to point out: what did you think of Diane Franklin, who played Karen?
Yeah, she's pretty attractive.
Well, I was watching it with Kat, and every time she came on screen, Kat turned to me and went, "I just want to take some tweezers to her eyebrows."
I didn't really notice her eyebrows.
Her eyebrows were out of control, but she does some nice boobies. And that's another thing that's good about these movies, is you get some good boobies.
Yeah, but even, I don't know. Even that seems weird.
Right, in the Christmas special, you asked for boobies or something. There was definitely an episode where you asked for boobies.
Yeah, there was definitely an episode where I asked for boobies. I didn't ask you for an abortion film that had boobies in it.
But the abortion scene is fantastic.
Right, okay, so that's my other point, is I was hating this film.
Yeah.
Full on hating it. But it does make a ballsy choice at the end, right? Which is, at the end of the film, the girl that he's been trying to get with, but his best friend's been wooing...
He wants to pop her cherry, basically, doesn't he?
Yes, and then his friend takes her to a stadium and sleeps with her. And then we have the big reveal that she's got pregnant, and his friend just leaves her and is like, no, whatever, we've broken up, it doesn't affect me. So he then, instead of going on holiday with all his mates, he sells a bunch of his own shit, pays for her abortion, and I was like, oh, this is a ballsy move. They've changed the direction this film's going.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that it happens right at the end. Because that could have been a good film, right? That premise, like, not a good comedy film, but that could have been a good film, is like Juno sort of did it, but without the abortion-y bits.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
Juno's a good film where it's like about teenage pregnancy and that kind of thing. And this film made its like stand-up, abortion points right at the end, which seems like such a fucking waste.
I liked that though. I liked that they were like, right, we've all had a laugh. Now let's see what actually happens if you go around putting your dick in places and not wearing protection and stuff. And I agree. I think it was a ballsy move, but I think what was even ballsier was the ending of the film.
Yeah.
So after this kid has put all his money towards helping this girl get an abortion, she then goes back to the friend who knocked her up, and basically leaves our main character in his car driving, crying as the credits roll.
Yeah.
Now, when I first saw that, I burst out laughing because I just could not believe the audacity of the movie.
Yeah, I guess.
I loved it. I thought it was...
Yeah, no, it's
amazing.
a really good ending, but it's not a good ending to that film.
I loved it. And
it's
also,
a really good ending, and it's the kind of thing that I like seeing in a film. I like when a film does that whole like, oh look, your character didn't get a happy ending, but that film didn't set itself up in the right way to be that movie. It felt like the director just grasping, or I guess not the director because it was based on other stories. It feels like whoever was making those stories was just grasping at straws at the end and was like, what's the most shocking thing I could do? Abortion. What else is shocking? They're not happy. It feels too like desperate to be as that film.
I liked it. I also... And one of the things I've learned about my movie taste as the years have gone on, if a movie has a really, really good soundtrack, I'm a lot more forgiving of any of its flaws. And The Last American Virgin 100% delivers on the soundtrack.
It has a good soundtrack, but I didn't like... I don't know. I didn't notice it in the same way that you did, I don't think.
That's surprising, because it stands out to me as one of the like real selling features of the movie.
Yeah, but it has really good songs, but like it didn't hit me in the way that like Drive hit me with its soundtrack.
Yeah, and Drive is the other one with an amazing soundtrack. I think that's because it's very different. Whereas,
they're like totally different films. I'm not comparing them in that way.
No, but I mean, is the soundtrack to Drive is very different as well, because the soundtrack had this weird like 80s synth vibe, but it was all quite modern music. Whereas The Last American Virgin, it is just great 80s songs, but it doesn't feel out of place.
Yeah.
So after this movie, does it surprise you to learn that none of the actors really achieved anything? Because I thought...
not shocking at all.
I thought the acting was pretty good.
Really?
Yeah, the main guy...
It's not that good.
The main guy, the only other thing he did of note was he appeared in Friday the 13th for the final chapter as just one of the teens that gets killed.
Like, the acting's not great in it. Like, but to be fair, like when I see... I don't know how old they were in that film. That's another thing. Because they're clearly 18 because you see boobs.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was good, though, is apart from Rick, like the friend that looks a bit like Patrick Swayze, I felt that the majority of the cast all looked like... They didn't look like movie stars.
They don't. They look like you'd expect a high school group to look like.
Exactly. And I actually kind of thought that was quite... Again, it was one of the things that I liked about the movie. I liked that you could believe that these were gawky high schoolers.
Yeah, but see, I could from like a look at them.
Yeah.
I just honestly don't think they were relatable in the way that a high school comedy movie or whatever it is. I don't know what they try and claim their genre is.
I think I'd say it's a sex comedy.
See, like, I don't think they're endearing in the way that usual sex comedy characters are.
No,
I don't know. I honestly didn't come out of that film thinking, I love these people. Like,
no, each of the characters. I'm so sorry
for Gary.
Every single one of the characters does something that makes them a massive dickhead. But again, that's what I like about it, because that is very true to what it's like to be a teenager. As a teenager, you're not endearing. There is no endearing teenager. You're always going to be some sort of weird, self-centered dickhead.
Yeah, I don't... But not to the extent that these people are.
I wouldn't say that as a massive extent. I'd say...
They literally have a scene where the main character gets so drunk, he then goes, I'm going to drive home, and one of his best friends doesn't say to him, don't be a twat, I'll drive you home. He goes, are you sure you don't want me to drive you home? And the guy can barely walk, and he's like, no, I'll drive. And then his friend goes, okay, and just leaves. And then, that's not even a fucking point of the movie. There's no consequences to that. It just, he gets home.
Yeah.
I was like, what a terrible friend. What a terrible message. This movie that then goes, oh, if you have unprotected sex, that can end in horrible things happening to you. Also goes, oh, but don't worry, drive drunk.
And driving, that's fine. But yeah, again, was it such a touchy subject at that time? I
don't know, mate. But see, the thing is, I get the whole this was made in the 80s, right? But I'm seeing it for my first time now. Yeah. I can't, and like, if you watch a film for the first time after it came out, you can't just put a filter on and go, but if it was the 80s, I'm sure I'd think this way. Like,
no, of course, but
and I don't. I honestly didn't like this film. I don't think it made good points.
That's fair enough. But I just counteract your point you just made. I feel like it is possible to watch a movie and go, oh, okay, so it is of that time, so it can be considered with certain constraints of that time.
I also think drink driving probably was a fairly big deal in the 80s. The 80s is not that long ago. It was a big deal in the 90s. And that's 10 years apart.
I feel like, because both this and Porky's does a little bit of drink driving as well.
When does Porky's have a drink
driving? I don't know, I might just delete that point. I think it was bad.
Yeah, it was.
I'm more thinking of when he gets beaten up, he's just acting like he's drunk.
Yeah.
Alright,
yeah, no, I think he does drink drive then, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
So that was The Last American Virgin. Now, I also recommended we watch Porky's.
Yeah.
Can you see why I recommended the two together?
Yes, my biggest issue is that you didn't suggest Porky's be the film we watch, and then compare it to The Last American Virgin.
The thing is, Porky's is the more accessible, the more popular option. I want more people to see The Last American Virgin, because while I understand you didn't like it, it is a movie that I do truly love.
I honestly wouldn't recommend it to anyone.
I obviously would, because I did.
You did.
For me, Porky's is marginally better, but I think Porky's is more accessible. So that's why, and it's also funnier. Porky's. It doesn't try to hit you at the end like The Last American Virgin does.
I think you're giving The Last American Virgin too much credit. Seriously, I think you're looking really at it through rose-coloured glasses, and you're saying like, I honestly think you're overestimating what they were trying to do. I don't think they made a film, and the whole time they were like, "This is going to be a big sudden twist."
No, but
proves everything. Like, the film wasn't trying to make that point.
Yeah,
they were like, this would be a good ending.
I don't think that was necessarily what they were trying to do, but what I think is what they did well, and I think having that ending, to me, is way more relatable than the ending of Porky's.
Yeah, oh no, 100%.
And that's what I like about it. What I like is...
But Porky's is the better film, and I preferred Porky's ending.
In a way, The Last American Virgin, it starts off as this... what you would expect from this sort of sex comedy Hollywood that's all dick around and have laughs, and then as it kind of progresses and as you get to know these characters better, it starts taking away the kind of film fantasy elements to it, and it's like, right, let's just think of these as actually real characters. This is what would probably happen if this wasn't a movie, and that's what I like about it.
No, I disagree.
Well, that's your decision.
Yep.
So Porky's.
Porky's.
Quick plot synopsis?
Bunch of high school kids decide that they have to, or one of them specifically is still a virgin, insists he isn't, but really wants to have sex. They eventually decide to go to a known brothel in another state called Porky's, run by a man called Porky. They they get tricked there. The man takes their money, doesn't let them sleep with anyone. Then one of the kids goes on a vendetta with him. The other kids are still trying to get laid, and eventually they get revenge on Porky.
Yeah, in what they describe as a prank, but is actually like several criminal acts.
Oh, 100%. I'm pretty positive people died in that end scene.
Yeah,
and they just don't tell us.
Quite possibly.
But yeah,
quite possibly.
Porky's is the more classic high school teens trying to lose their virginity, right?
Yeah.
Or like, especially of that time.
So what I think is interesting as well is Porky's got a wide release in March of 1982. The Last American Virgin, July of the same year.
Yeah.
And what was my point?
I don't know.
What I like is they're kind of they're kind of the same story in a way. If you boil it down to, I just want to get laid. But with Porky's, you have the more Hollywood, let's make a big laugh out of it. And with The Last American Virgin, you have more of a, this is what could potentially happen in that scenario. I mean, I think if you put Porky's outside of a movie scenario, it would not end that way.
Yeah, but Porky's is a comedy. Porky's accepts it as a comedy and goes, cool, we're going to be a comedy.
Yeah. So, what were your favourite scenes in Porky's?
I don't know about specific scenes. I really liked the scenes with Brian, who is the Jewish boy that turns up at the school.
Yep. He seems to just appear halfway through the movie.
Yeah, he sort of rocks up in a gym class.
Yeah, and then they just are like, well, you're one of us now, I guess. And he's just there for the rest. But he's not really, he just suddenly appears. It's very odd.
But yeah, no, I liked his scenes, but just because he seemed like a nice guy.
Yeah, there's a huge cast in Porky's. Like the main group of guys, I think, is like 8 or something.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't know, like scenes to me wasn't a big thing. Like there were a couple of scenes that I was like, that's funny or whatever. But it's more like characters and stuff.
I love the scene where they're spying on the girls in the showers.
Yeah.
And one of them says, "Have you ever seen that much wool you could knit a sweater?"
Yes, yeah.
And then, right, this character puts his willy through one of the holes because he thinks that the girls are interested, but actually it's this like hench butch lady coach, and she grabs his penis and doesn't let go. And that got me thinking, Jack, where's the strangest place you've ever put your penis?
Right, nowhere.
What?
I haven't done anything like that. Why would anyone do anything like that? See, this again, Liam, is one of the things where I'm like, Liam's view of reality and fiction is wrong, because it is your reality, but it's your reality because you've seen shit like this and you're like, that's a good idea.
Yeah. No, I've never like put my dick through a hole in a wall or anything.
You've never put your hole through your dick.
No, that sounds like a terrible idea.
It does.
Like I wouldn't say I put mine in anywhere particularly weird. I think.
Well, then why the fuck did you ask?
I think a sock is the weirdest.
And that's like fairly common, isn't it? I've not done that, but
I didn't like it. I'm going to be honest with you. Like
I don't know if I want to have this conversation with you.
It was a necessity. Basically, it was when I was at uni, and I was out of tissues. And I'm not an animal. I can't just, I like to consider where I'm going to deposit. I can't just chuck it on the floor or something. And I thought, well, I've got no tissues. I've got a sock here. That's the thing that I guess people do. It seems to be mentioned a lot in movies and whatnot. So I strapped the sock over my dick and just instantly killed the mood. There is nothing arousing about having a sock on the end of your penis.
I'm really sorry for this, listeners. I really wish this wasn't happening, but it is.
What?
The film Porkys.
No, so you've got to have somewhere where you put it, though, at some point in your life.
No, I honestly haven't. I don't know what point you're trying to make. It's one of your things where you assume other people have done as weird shit as you, and I
hope. I don't assume. I hope.
Yeah, I know. That's
I don't
why
want to be alone.
It upsets me when you bring these up, and I'm like, oh, I can't help him on this one because it's just him.
Yeah, maybe.
It's the desperation of you being like, you must have done it somewhere, and I'm like, no, honestly, Liam, I haven't.
Maybe you could, and
just
to
make you feel better
it in a future episode.
Okay,
thank you.
I'll put my dick in a plug or something.
In a what?
Plugs, not a plug socket, a plug hole in like a.
What about
shower.
a pie?
No, I don't think people really do that.
I don't, to be honest. Now I think
it sounds like you do it.
Watermelon, maybe people do.
Yeah, but why? None of it sounds appealing.
Well, it's meant to feel good.
I'm not having this conversation with you. I don't need to know if you're going to fuck a watermelon.
Oh, I'm not. I have no interest in that.
I don't know. I don't know if I trust you.
No, I'm pretty good at masturbation. Like I've got it down, so I don't need to like.
Can we please talk about Porkys?
Yeah.
Like, you derailed this subject, and I actually wanted to talk about this film.
Did you notice Kim Cattrall was in it, who made her name in Sex and the City?
No, who's she?
She was the the hot-ish lady coach, the one who was nicknamed Lassie.
Yeah.
She sort of made her name in Sex and the City, but you see her naked in this. So for any fans of Sex and the City, if you wondered what she looked like younger and hotter and nakeder, you'll find out in Porkys.
Yeah, she's pretty hot in Porkys.
Yeah, I also really like Wendy in Porkys. Like, she's not traditionally attractive, but
yes, she is.
Would you say so?
Yeah.
Okay then.
What do you mean by... I don't think you can say phrases like traditionally attractive, because that doesn't mean anything.
Well, it does.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Kaylee Kuko is traditionally attractive.
Yeah, no, but see, it's too broad a statement to say someone's not traditionally attractive.
Yeah, it is.
No, because attraction is based on your opinion.
Yeah. An opinion.
Oh my god,
as subjective.
This week you're a nightmare.
What do you mean?
Like, usually I can have reasonable discussions with you. This week it feels like you're just... I don't know.
Alright, you want to talk about Porkys?
I don't know anymore.
Meat, right? You like to meat, yeah?
Yeah.
Didn't mean it to come
I like
meat.
that.
Right. Fun fact for you.
Yeah.
He is in another movie called The Wanderers, which is...
I've heard of it.
It's really good. I might actually add it to my little spreadsheet of things to watch one day. Again, it's another coming of age, but it's not a sex comedy come of age. It's more to do with like gangs.
Okay.
So it's a bit more serious, and I think it's set in the 50s or 60s.
Oh, fair enough.
But yeah, he's really good in that, and that's where I first saw him. So when I watched Porky's and saw him appear, I was like, oh, I know that guy. I was like happy to see him again.
Well, fair enough.
It was like, reuniting with an old friend.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just go with it.
You and me, best buddies.
Well, sometimes.
I don't know anymore, Liam. I don't know.
No, you were saying how much you liked Porky's.
That's just not how much I liked it. I just liked it more than The Last American Virgin.
Yeah. So how do these 80s sex comedies compare to more recent ones like Superbad, for example?
I mean, I prefer the newer ones, but like, it's not my favourite genre anyway.
No, but so
I don't particularly get. I tend not to particularly empathise with the characters in it, because usually it's deliberately they're being dicks. Like, it's doing that whole, like you were saying earlier, that whole like, when you're a teenager, you're not meant to be,
likeable,
everyone's favourite person.
Yeah,
but like, I don't know. When I watch a film or like read a story or whatever, I like to empathise with the main character.
Okay.
So a lot of it is just that I just don't get what their big deal is.
And
like, there are characters in Porky's that I did like.
Do you struggle to kind of like characters when they are... So, for example...
Just if they make decisions that I'm like, that's clearly a bad thing to do.
Yeah. But sometimes these characters, like especially the more over-the-top dickhead characters, tend to be the ones that people like a lot. So
so like the ones I liked the most in Porky's were probably like Pee-wee's up there, and he's a dickhead.
Less so.
No, he's a dickhead.
Why?
He's the friend that they have round because they're like, it's hilarious when Pee-wee fucks up.
Yeah, but that doesn't make him a dickhead. That just makes him a bit of a klutz.
No, he's also a dickhead. He's like obsessed with sex and pesters women.
Yeah, but they all do.
Yeah, that's not okay, Liam.
No.
Hi, Liam. Hey, this is the modern day Liam. That's not okay anymore.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, for this movie to work, they kind of have to. Otherwise,
I'm not saying they shouldn't be dickheads. I'm just saying they are dickheads.
No, but what I'm asking is like the Stifler character in American Pie, for example.
Yeah,
a lot of people like him because of what a dickhead he is, and I think a lot of it is people almost wish that they could get away with being as big of a dickhead without any repercussions.
I don't think that's what it is.
Or they just find him funny for whatever reason.
I think that's what it is. People
what I'm
find the
asking
stuff they do funny.
Is you who needs to empathise with someone, can you still like the dickhead characters?
No, yeah. So I'm not saying I don't. So I'm not saying that I only like characters I empathise with. Okay. I like to have a character that I can empathise with.
Okay.
So what Porky's does is a fair few of the characters have moments where you're like, oh, I get what that character's doing, right?
Yeah, I'd say most have their, like I empathise
with. Like, you can empathise with the guy that's getting beat by his dad because you're like, I get that, that's horrible, I see why he's being a dick.
Yes.
You empathise with Brian because you're like, I get why a kid would be trying to make friends in this new school and would have to push through. I get that it must be horrible for him to have been bullied, like, because he says he had to learn to fight because
Yeah.
if you're Jewish, you either know how to fight or you get beaten up, effectively.
Yes.
Right, so I like that kind of empathy. But you can also like characters that aren't... Like, so Pee-wee, you don't empathise with Pee-wee, particularly.
Okay.
He doesn't have, like, he doesn't have a reason. He's, like... But he's a good character because he's funny.
Yeah, I like that the very first time you see Pee-wee, he's lying in bed, he's got his morning glory going on, he gets awoken, he measures himself, and he goes, oh man, it's getting smaller.
Yes, yeah. Like, Pee-wee's a good character, and I liked him, but he's not... Yeah, he's not empathetic.
And what I think they do well in Porkys is you have a villain. Like, Porky is a great villain for the characters to kind of rally against.
Yeah. And they make him bad enough that you're against him too.
Oh yeah, the fact that he will like happily beat up a teenager.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Like, to the point of hospitalisation. I think at one point they say that he kind of breaks someone's ribs and maybe collapses a lung.
That's the turning point of when they decide to get revenge.
Yeah. But no, I agree. Porky's is, for me, Porky's is marginally better. What I like about it is, I think some comedies, they're aware that they're a comedy, so they don't like to show the characters laughing. Like, they try to play off the jokes, not necessarily as jokes, so characters won't laugh. Like, it's one of the things that How I Met Your Mother did differently, but did well, is when someone made a joke, the other characters could laugh at it. Whereas if you look at something like Friends, someone will make a one-liner joke, but no one else will laugh or whatever. They'll just kind of carry on with the scene.
Yeah.
And what I like with Porky's is there are just entire scenes where the whole cast are laughing.
Yeah, the coaches and Miss What's-Her-Face.
That is, yeah. There's loads of scenes. And it's one of the things that I really noticed watching it this time is I think it's a great way of getting you kind of almost... This is going to sound weird, but almost feeling like you are part of that group because you're kind of laughing along with them.
Yeah, well, that's that empathy thing I was talking about.
Yeah.
I'm glad we agree.
Yeah. So, what would you give The Last American Virgin out of 5?
2.
Okay, that's higher than I was expecting.
I mean, that's like it's either a 1 or a 2. So I guess maybe a 1.5, but I'm not sure. So I'll give it a 2 just based on the unsurety.
Okay, for me, it's a 4.
Which I find insane.
But, this is... Oh, we forgot. Hang on. This is why I'm kind of disappointed that none of our listeners actually got in touch with us about it. But... Yeah.
One of our listeners did get in contact with us.
Would you like to read that out?
Yeah. Kat sent us an email.
And this is only because I made her watch the movie with me.
Yep. Third wheel Kat. I say that, but I might be the third wheel. We're still not sure. So Kat says, the soundtrack was amazing, but the film wasn't as funny as it wanted to be at times and was quite predictable sometimes, whilst entirely unrealistic other times. Saying that, I did enjoy it to an extent. 2.5 out of 5. Average.
Sort of. So, yeah, I mean, if I hadn't made her watch it, she wouldn't have wrote in. And I agree with her points.
Yeah, that's The Last American Virgin, by the way.
She didn't watch Porkys. But I do wish that more of our listeners had got involved because just from a very selfish personal thing, I wanted to find out what other people thought of this movie.
Yeah, I get that. Just as a fair, warning to our listeners, I don't care if you watch it. I don't think you should. So
yeah, whereas I do. For me,
like, watch
it's a
Porkys,
4 out of 5.
in my opinion. Go watch Porkys if you want that kind of film. If not, don't worry about it.
So what would you give Porkys out of 5?
A 3. If I'm giving Last American Virgin a 2, then Porkys is a 3.
Okay, again, Porkys for me, it is marginally better. It's a 4 out of 5, but as we already said, it's a lot more accessible, and I'm way more curious of how people respond to The Last American Virgin. Now, the other issue is that what I don't want is someone who hasn't watched it, but has listened to all of this, to then go and watch it knowing how it ends. I don't care what you think of it if you've done that. I wanted you to watch it not knowing, so I could have found out then, but you've lost that opportunity now.
Who are you talking to?
Our listeners.
Right. Again, listeners, just don't watch it.
I'm livid at them.
Liam's angry this week.
I really... Like, they had such a good opportunity to interact.
Don't get annoyed at our listeners.
No, but it's not often I actually care what they think. Whereas this week...
Jesus Christ.
This week, I really wanted to know.
When we started this, you were like, yeah, I hate the fact that you're always trying to get the listeners on side. And I was like, I'm not trying to get them on side, Liam. I feel like you just naturally are anti the listeners.
This week I am. I'm going to be honest.
You always seem to be.
No, just this week.
You get angry at this fictitious listener you have in your head that always disobeys you.
It's all of them.
It's not, though.
It is. Right,
None of this has happened.
No, it's all of the listeners, right? What I'm angry at is all of the listeners that listened to last week's episode, found out that we were going to watch The Last American Virgin this week, and didn't bother watching it, and didn't bother writing in. And I'm even more angry at those ones that have now listened to this episode after not doing all of that. And have listened to the spoilers.
No, because sometimes people aren't... I feel like this, again, comes from the fact that I, in our real life, listen to more podcasts than you. And I speak to a lot of my friends who do listen to podcasts. But I think a lot of people listen to this kind of thing because they're just interested in our views, not necessarily the content we're talking about. Like, this gives people a snap. Even if they haven't watched Porkys or The Last American Virgin, we sort of, not sum it up, but, we give a brief synopsis of what it is. And then we have discussion about what we want to discuss, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like the listeners that aren't watching Porky's and The Last American Virgin, they're not doing it to spite you. They're not going, I'm not going to watch it and then I'm going to listen.
No, I'm just livid at them.
They're fine. No, why? It doesn't matter.
Because, here's
for them,
the thing.
They're listening to our opinions on these topics.
No, yeah, but, right, what they've done is if they've listened to this episode, I am particularly livid because they have spoiled that movie for them now. And now,
but they would never
now
watch
that they
it,
know how
shit.
it ends, I don't care what they think about it. So if they were to listen to this episode and then go off and watch it and then write in, I don't care.
Listeners, I'm not mental like Liam, so you guys do what you want. I'm just glad you listened to this podcast.
I guess I'm not... Maybe I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed.
Again, don't worry about Liam. He's insane.
I'm disappointed. They had a good opportunity to get involved.
This is the man. The man that is currently judging you is the man that spent ages last week talking about his balls.
Yeah, what's worse, me talking about them or you guys listening about it?
You talking about it?
I don't know. I think anyone that just sits there and thinks, you know what, I'm going to listen to all 15 minutes of this has an issue.
Stop judging our listeners. What is your problem?
No, I love our listeners most of the time.
Oh, do
they
you?
really let me down this week. They really let me down.
Oh my god. What if they just didn't write in? What if they did watch it?
Then what was the point?
Because they still get to listen to this. They just don't have to, like...
Just write in. It's
no,
not
don't
big
worry about it,
ask.
listeners. Write in when you feel like writing in.
That'd be never. We done? Anything else?
Yeah, I have a question for you, Liam.
Yeah, go on then.
What are we doing next week? Or next time?
Right. Next time, we are going to be doing Daredevil Season 2. The whole season. It's going to be crazy. Normally we just do 3 episodes, but we're going to do all of them. So... Woo! It comes out. It'll be out by the time you listen to this, most likely.
Yeah. So then you guys have got 2 weeks. We'll have 1.
Yeah, but if you want to interact, you'll have 1 week as well. And do you know what?
That's true.
It wouldn't fucking hurt you to write in once in a while, would
Jesus
it?
Christ! Could you stop berating the listeners?
Jack, maybe they don't know how they can get involved. Maybe you should tell them.
Well, if you want to contact us, you can tweet us at nerdornerd, or you can email us at nerdornerdpod@gmail.com.
No excuses now. Wrap it up.
Yeah, outro.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Nerd on Nerd. I just did all the contact stuff, so I'm not going to do it this time. But I will say, if you want to, actually review us on iTunes, you can.
Why bother? They won't.
They will. Stop
They're
being
not
negative.
even writing in. Why would they review us on iTunes?
I haven't actually checked those, so I don't actually know if anyone has. If you have, and we just haven't noticed, we love you.
I can tell you now they haven't.
I'm Jack Kempster.
I'm Liam Underwood.
Bye.
Bye.